everyone. This is Dr. Pelè with the Automate Works podcast. And it is my pleasure, a special treat for me today, to learn from, to meet, to interview Olivier Gomez, who has allowed the world to style him as the OG, the original guy, the original good guy of intelligent automation, of digital transformation, RPA, any topic that brings those kinds of bottom line results to organizations. Olivier, it is an honor to be speaking with you today.
Thank you. I'm quite excited to be here. So I'm going to say, since I'm French, bonjour. That's how we say hello. And yeah, it's really important topics. I'm really glad to be here today.
Absolutely. Now, since you're French, I'm sorry, but I have to tell you, I was in Toulouse once, and I said that they should bring me a steak at the restaurant. And, they brought me the steak, and I'm telling you, it was still alive. There was blood all over the place.
Yeah, that's how we like it. How we like it. Yes.
That's how you like it, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, Olivier, it's been a pleasure to meet you today. And let's get on to some really serious topics. One of the things I love about the way you present yourself in the marketplace, clearly you are a thought leader. You and your partners have done great things, including one of your founding partners writing this book, the seminal book called Intelligent Automation. You are at the top of the food chain in terms of knowledge about this field. I would love to know from you, how would you capture the state of the field of digital transformation today? I know you like results, so give us a sense of what you see as the problem out there, and maybe we'll talk about how you can help fix that in a few minutes.
Yeah. So I think we are at a very interesting time. So first of all, when you look at any digital transformation, typically part of the agenda, what we call intelligent automation, so a mix of automation and AI put together, is actually a very big chunk of that digital transformation, right? And it's now very clear that, at the top of any company, small and big company, that strategically automation is a critical requirement for survival, right? So people understand now that this is not just something that, I need to play with, something I need to do. No, this is something that if I don't do, I will probably not be around in the next 10, 20 years, right? So this is really, really perceived as critical. That's why most of the large company nowadays are actually running automation program. There's even a chief automation officer that we start to see around. So it's really perceived as critical. And the other aspect that is really important is we are now away from what I call the innovation phase, right? So we've been doing and talking about RPA and all those technologies for many, many years. We are now above and beyond, playing with the technology. We are now reaching what I call an industrialized phase, which is now we know the technology works. We have plenty of use cases, plenty of, case study, plenty of successes. And now what we want to see is basically the technology making a difference and impacting positively the business, showing outcome. And we want to see it in the P&L, right? So whether it's top of the P&L, or whether it's bottom of the P&L, we want to see result. And what is also important here is we see CFOs starting to look at those projects, looking at it with a financial angle, with a business angle, not just, folks looking at it from a technical angle, right? It's becoming more and more what I call a tech agnostic type of topic, right?
Interesting. One of the things that you're doing with the Intelligent Automation Corporation, your corporation, is you're really putting a highlight on the issue of results, outcomes. Mm-hmm. In fact, it's something I love that you said. I think you call it an outcome-based model, outcome as a service. I mean, you're really pushing the envelope when it comes to outcomes. Why do you believe that this is needed at this time? Why is the focus on outcomes needed? Has there been a problem recently in this field?
I would say not just recently. From the beginning,
yeah.
What we've seen, and whether you look at automation, whether you look at AI, and especially when you merge the two together, what we've seen is that unfortunately, there's a lot of projects that are failing to deliver a positive return on investment. Okay, so and it's not just the typical issue, I have licenses on the shelf. No, it's bigger than that, right? And I believe that, as I was saying before, we are reaching a point where we have enough understanding of the technology, we have enough experience. We developed inside our company a library of use cases. We have close to 1,000 use cases,
Wow.
right? So bottom line, people have been doing a lot of automation. We know what works. We know what doesn't work. We understand, what are the risks. And I believe that it's about time that what we find in many other verticals, many other industries, which is, I don't want to buy technology just for technology's sake, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to hire people just to do development, right? I want to understand what will be the end result, what will be the outcome. And we are reaching a level of understanding of those technology that is allowing us to really understand what is going to be the impact on a given business unit, a given process, a given operation, and at the end of the day, on a given P&L.
Yeah. Olivier, one of the things that I absolutely love, and I read a few articles that you wrote, you are very well published. One of the things you said is that you want to shift risk from the buyer, right, to the seller of these services, from the customer. You want to shift automation risk. And I think that's a really pivotal point. I'm wondering, though, if you would tell us how you got to that point. What is your backstory? What made you wake up one day and say you're going to go save the world here? Because this is a big endeavor that you're working on right now.
Yeah. So the background is very simple. In previous lives, corporate life, I was a buyer. And I've been buying, so I was accountable for, first of all, build versus buy type of decision, which is very difficult. Do I do it myself? Do I go and buy it somewhere, off the shelf? And then, by the way, I need to customize, integrate, and do all these kind of things. But bottom line, have been trying to buy, and I've been working with, multiple service providers and software vendors. And what we realized is that, again, the sellers, they are not typically willing to take risk. They like to let the financial risk remain with the buyer. And the point here is, yes, you get a very nice PowerPoint that is giving you a very nice business case. Yes, you get a very nice set of recommendation from consultant. Yes, you get very nice demo features, capabilities. But at the end of the day, you as the buyer are, expected to be fully accountable for all the financial risk that you are taking. And I believe that if we are capable nowadays to help the buyer to basically de-risk the buyer, so share the risk ultimately, right? We can really establish a true win-win. Why is that? So first of all, I believe that the sellers are not correctly incentivized today. So if I'm selling technology, if I'm selling people, if I'm selling project, right? Am I fully incentivized to do what's most efficient, to go and get the biggest and highest automation rate? I am not sure. If you have a win-win situation and you partner with your client, you go after what we call gain share, right? So we're gonna go and try to have the biggest impact, and then we work on the same objective. It's not one versus the other. It's not buyer and seller. It's a team targeting an objective. And once we deliver that objective, we share, the result. I believe that this is really changing not just how we collaborate, not just de-risking the buyer, but also changing the mindset and the approach of the service or software provider to make sure that they are fully incentivized to do what makes sense for the client.
I have to tell you that is revolutionary. There are people out there who would say, well, we already shift some risk over to us when we do a proof of concept, a POC. We don't charge for that. So, I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to be a partner all the way? And you're like, yes, we're going to literally share risk all the way. So I think that's powerful. I wonder what you think about some of the models that are showing up, such as RPA as a service, that are talking about shifting the way we deliver services. What's your opinion on some of these new models?
Yeah, so that makes totally sense, right? So again, we are totally shifting away from I'm buying licenses
Mm-hmm.
because we know, especially in our space that a lot of those licenses will end up unfortunately on the shelf, right? So the subscription model, the as a service model that a lot of service provider, platform provider are giving is really good. It's really good because it's really allowing the client to only consume what they need, and there's the flexibility that is required, right? Somehow I would say the software industry is a bit ahead of the service industry in that space. Obviously, because it has less implication in terms of cash flow impact, on the seller. But the point I'm making is it's not just the software industry that needs to do that. It's also the service industry. And the point I'm making is if you really take it to the extreme, it's not just establishing a subscription model. It's pushing it to, yeah, I'm going to commit that I can deliver to you a certain amount of, let's say, productivity gain, a certain amount of bottom line improvement, a certain amount of revenue improvement, and so I'm really pushing it to the extreme. And I believe that there's many situations where this can be easily implemented. So yes, to answer your question, I love the direction that the software industry is taking, which is, by the way, pushed by the buyers, by the company that are sick and tired of having all those licenses on the shelf.
Yeah.
And I think we have to go even one step further. And this outcome as a service, as I call it, is if you're a buyer, why not demanding that, right? Why not trying to investigate why it is not possible for the service provider to do more than just selling T&M model, or selling times and material model, or selling a project with a defined scope. No, I want you to have skin in the game. I want you to be my true partner, and you take risk. But by the way, if we are delivering large results, you as a service provider will get the benefit of it.
Yeah. No, this is powerful stuff. And, I think if it's okay with you, let's shift a little bit into the nuts and bolts of how your organization uniquely delivers these kinds of outcome as a service results. I think I used an analogy in a recent LinkedIn post. I talked about crossing the chasm. I think as an industry, I think you've mentioned this today also, as an industry, we're past the very first phase, but now we have to correctly get this out to the masses, right? Not with the mistakes of the past, but correctly. I'd love your take on how you solve intelligent automation, AI, RPA, all those words. How do you solve those problems for enterprises?
Yeah. So I think the first key point here is not to do what a lot of people are doing, which is to start with the technology.
Ooh.
Right. So this is, I think, one of the biggest mistake, right? So if you start with a technology, even worse, if you fall in love with the technology, a lot of people are, really religious about a given tool, right?
Yeah.
And we know, right? When all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail, right? So you don't want to do that. You really want to have...
the funny thing about the hammer and the nail, the customer doesn't want that. They want the painting hanging on the wall.
Exactly. So I think this is the first key point, right? Is we need to, this community is highly technical. They like to do technical stuff. They like to develop, and they like, but unfortunately, if we put ourselves in the shoes of a client that is trying to have an impact in this industry, you don't want to start with the solution. You want to understand the problem first. And the way to start the problem is to have a true technology agnostic approach, a business centric approach that has to be, and this is the key point here, that has to be data driven. Okay, it has to be data driven. So first of all, right, the understanding what problem we are trying to fix at the level of the company is really important, right? And you would be amazed nowadays, large company, but also smaller company, they have a lot of information, a lot of data available. It's not always the best quality. It's not always super structured. It's not always super complete, but data is available. And starting with that, I need to understand the data. So I can use process mining tool, task mining tool, AI platform. I can use data scientists. But the key point here is you need to understand very well the client's environment and its data. Why? Because you want to understand where the opportunity are. And unfortunately, when you listen to people and you listen to guts feeling, you don't always end up in the right place. So having a data-driven, business-centric approach to understand what problem we are trying to solve and what's the magnitude of the opportunity, so you can correctly prioritize things, is really, really important, right? So that's point number one. And there's multiple ways to do that. And I'm not saying we don't want to talk to people, but I'm saying that if you only talk to people and you forget about the data, and yes, it requires skills. It requires, again, data science capability to be able to make sense of semi-structured, unstructured data, dark data, incomplete data, right? So it's not something that all clients are capable of doing on their own, but there is nowadays capability to understand the data and to really understand, what it is that I want to target. Yeah. And once you have that, then you need to map it with what is possible of doing, looking at the past. As I said, we have a library of use cases. We know what is possible. We know what is, what has been done in the past, what has been done successfully in the past. And when you combine those two, on one side, you have an understanding of the client's problem, client's opportunity, client's data, where you want to go and do the automation, how big will be the impact. On the other side, you have what is working today on the market and what is not working. When you combine those two, you're really able to identify clearly what you want to do, how you are going to do it, and the level of confidence that you are going to deliver a result is pretty high.
What's interesting is that you mentioned something that I couldn't agree more with. You talked about don't start with the technology, start with the business case, understand the problem, and be, I think you said, technology agnostic. By the way, this is very powerful. Be data-driven and technology agnostic. I love those words. You also mentioned that so many people right now are very much on the technical side. I wonder, what do you see about the value of education and evangelism, which is what you do? You are a teacher. You're a preacher, really, in this field. What do you see about the value of that as a way of making sure that we are focusing on the right things at the beginning? If you look at LinkedIn, you've got 20,000 followers. That's because you're teaching people things. But most of the consultants you just mentioned, they're just looking for that next technology implementation hustle. They're not out there evangelizing. So tell me what you think about your approach in terms of just teaching and evangelizing everywhere.
Yeah. So first of all, there's different type of people that you want to target, right? And as I said, right, what we see happening is that it is not just technical people that are going to be learning about, automation and AI. It is going to be all the other people that will be impacted, that will be using those technologies. So that's one key point, right? It's not just a geeky, I'm a geek and therefore I'm talking about AI. No, I can be a business leader. I can be a sales, I can be a delivery leader. I can be an expert in a very different, let's say, areas and industries and geographies. And yet I want to learn about what those technology can do for me, for my business, for what I do. So this is really important, right? It's not just about teaching how I build a bot, because this, I think, is well covered, right? You have millions and tens of millions of people that are RPA certified and capable of developing a bot now. And that's what I'm looking for, right? I want to go and target the business people. I want to go and target those people and educate them and have them understand that, these technologies that are coming, that are basically the basis for what I call the digital workforce, right? Which is basically, you're going to have in your company, if you're running a company, you're going to have humans doing human stuff. And you're going to have bots doing, bot stuff, which is by nature a different type of work. It's almost like, an engineer and a sales guy, they do different jobs. A bot is going to do certain type of boring, repetitive, type of activity, and the human is going to do all the innovation and all the stuff that technology is not able to do today, and probably will not be able to do that for the next, I don't know, 50, 100 years, right? So again, the point being here is the audience that I am targeting, that I am clearly targeting, is the CFOs, the business leaders, those people that need to understand that if I use those technology, I can disrupt my business model, I can disrupt my delivery model, and I can make a difference on the market. And I don't need to understand the inside out of how I develop. This is not really the point, right? Point number two, what is really important here is we have to give to the community.
Yeah.
And the point being here is, there's a lot of things, part of the game here is how much can I give to the community? How much can I, educate the people? And when you do that, I mean, you basically help people understand the need. So you give away for free, but you basically help people understand the need, and people will come back to you with, I need you to help me because I know that you can make a difference. So you don't have to worry about, I need to monetize this, right? This is not the point. The point here is I need to give away all the knowledge, help those group of people that are not really knowledgeable about the topic to understand the criticality, to understand the opportunity, and then the rest is happening very organically, very naturally.
For leaders inside large or smaller enterprises that are listening to this and are going, wow, this is exciting, it makes sense, they have certain roadblocks, certain things that get in their way. Maybe it's a lack of flexibility, no clarity when it comes to their data. Maybe they're just missing the mark on what automation means and how there's a value for it in the first place. How do you address someone, a leader, who has a mindset that may need to be kind of nurtured? How do you get them to see the beauty and the value that you see in automation technologies in general?
Yeah. So again, I think this is a very, very key point, right? So the level of trust that you're going to get from, let's say, a CFO on a given technology is probably going to be very low, right? And then the level of understanding is also going to be very low. Again, as I was saying, if you have, instead of talking technology, if you have a business conversation with a CFO, and you look at the operation, you look at what the technology can do to the business without going into any of the solutioning, any of the features, any of the tooling, any of the hosting, any of the implementation, but you just go on, this is the input. And yes, Mr. Customer, you might have a problem with your input because your data is unclean, your data is incomplete, your data is unstructured. We can work on that. And this is the expected output. Forget about what's inside the black box. This is things that the technical people can do. But if you understand, if you have the right input, and this is the kind of output that you're gonna get, typically, they start to listen. If on top of that, you're able to build top-down a business case that has, for me, right, when I work with large corporation, Fortune 3000, the target is $1 million impact. If you go above and beyond $1 million impact, then you start having people, listening to you.
Yeah.
Okay. So the problem with a lot of those RPA projects is that by nature, they are very small, right? It is a small impact for 3-4 people here, 3-4 people there. If you have instead a top-down, data-driven, end-to-end business process view, and you forget about how you are going to do the implementation, I mean, that's not something you don't want to talk about, but you will talk about it phase 2. Phase 1 is if Mr. CFO, Mr. Business Unit Manager, Mr. CEO, if you are doing this, and if you are giving me those inputs, and this is the nature of the output that you're going to get, this is the magnitude of the output that you're going to get. And then if on top of that, you stick your neck out and you basically say, I'm going to do an outcome-based model, meaning if I don't deliver a result, you don't have to pay me, you get attention from people, right? So the point being here is, again, is to talk about things that is, in their comfort zone, right? It's to talk about things that is in their comfort zone. You don't want to disrupt them with geeky terms and more tools, more technology, more, hype stuff. No, you want to talk about their business, their problem, what they understand in their P&L, what they are trying to achieve. And if you map that, and if you're able to show an impact, then obviously, naturally, you move to the next phase, which is, okay, now I understand what it means. Now show me how you are going to solution that, because, I want to have a certain level of confidence. My technical people want to have a certain level of confidence that you can make it work.
Yeah, no, as you said, a results-driven risk-sharing approach is certainly one of your powerful differentiators. But I would argue that another one of your differentiators, Olivier, is you are an evangelist. You are a teacher and a preacher of this stuff. And that education process really, really helps to set the stage for success. Gartner talked about, I believe, enterprises having achieved 90% or more in adoption of digital transformation, AI, all of these RPA technologies. However, small to medium-sized businesses are like 8%, 9% adoption. You mentioned just in a couple of sentences ago, you mentioned that, solving $1 million problem is an amazing thing, but a lot of people are still thinking about the 4 people, 3, 5 people impact. What do you think about SMB and SMEs as an opportunity? They have not adopted this technology. There's got to be a reason. Is it an opportunity financially, or do you think only focusing on enterprises is the way to go? What's your thought on that?
Yeah, so obviously, larger company have a larger pool of people that they want to go and target, and try to roll out technology. They also have access to what I'm calling the big tools, right? The expensive tools.
Yeah.
The tools that basically require quite a bit of money on the table to be able to, like, large corporation tool. The good news is, as the ecosystem, the intelligent ecosystem is really, really growing, we see many, many tools, including, I would say, open source tool, right? Mm-hmm. More affordable, more easier to implement. We see also different way to consume the technology. So the as a service, the subscription base, all of that is really good news for the SMBs, because it means that they don't have to spend a huge amount of money just to acquire the technology. What we also see, as I was saying, is that there's a lot of people out there that are starting to communicate those what I would call basic use cases, right? So you can basically learn from what was done by the large corporation and take that and implement that for yourself, right? Yeah. So if you combine the technology is not all the technology in the ecosystem, don't get me wrong, but some of the technology in the ecosystem is becoming a commodity. Yeah. So that's good news.
It's also becoming, there's also more no code or low code, and that helps too.
That's the third aspect, right? So you have the technology becoming, let's say, cheaper, more easier to consume. Mm-hmm. You have the experience of, the folks in the industry that have done it. So you have example of use cases, and then the technology is becoming simpler.
Yeah.
So by simpler, I mean, there's a number of things that you can do, drag and drop, low code, not everything, but a certain number of things that you can do. So when you combine all of that, then you start having, SMBs looking at this and say, okay, it's about time I do it for myself. It's about time that, the good thing with the smaller company compared to the bigger one is that they, not all of them, but some of them are very digital by nature. They don't have all this legacy crap that they have to handle, right? Yeah. So they come in really lean, really clean, really digital, and this is extremely automation friendly as an environment, right? So I would say, if you're an SMB, you have an opportunity here to basically leverage this technology and go compete with the bigger one.
Wow.
And this is really, something that people need to think. You would be amazed. Sometimes you have a very large corporation and a much smaller one. And when you look at, the experience, the customer experience, it's very similar, because, when you are small, but you are fully digital, fully lean, and you can leverage all the latest and greatest, there's a lot of things you can do here.
Yeah, I would consider what you just shared a masterclass in this new opportunity for SMBs. So whoever's listening, OG said you could do it. As we wrap up here, what are you excited about? What's coming up soon? You got some project we should know about? And where can people find you on LinkedIn or social media in general?
Yeah, sure. So again, I have two main objectives that I really want to push very strongly. The first one is I want people to understand the outcome as a service, the outcome-based model. We are going to release a white paper. I will share that with you, where we really articulate what it means. And I want the analysts to understand that this is a very, very disruptive moment for the industry, where people can basically start buying on only results. So that's one key point. I'm gonna be pushing that, and you're gonna see a lot of noise there.
Yep.
The second point that is really, really exciting is I want to leverage the large use case library that we have built, those 1,000 plus use cases. Yep. And I'm currently building a platform that I want to give back to the community for people to be able to leverage all those use cases, for people to be able to understand more clearly, what type of automation they can implement in their environment, and for people to be able to accelerate the time to value as well, right? So very soon we're gonna be, feeding back to the community with this. I think it's probably the biggest library in the world of use cases, and we're gonna be providing that, in the form of a platform for the community to be able to tap in and to be able to, I would say, clarify a little bit what is possible versus what is not, and drastically improve the time to value for people who want to implement automation.
Wow, that's an awesome thing to look forward to. And what's the best place for people to find you? Is it LinkedIn, or you have a website and other things too?
So we have IAC.ai. That's our website, IAC.ai. And then definitely on LinkedIn, you can drop me a mail, Olivier@IAC.ai. You can drop me a mail directly. That is not a problem for me. But I'm typically quite active on LinkedIn, and I'm trying to push as much content as possible.
Yep.
This is as you said, right? This is I'm trying to really contribute here to the community. This is really important for me.
Yeah, no, that's powerful. I just want to thank you so much for being a guest on the Automate Works podcast. It's just been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for your time, and merci beaucoup.
Okay. You want to go French? Listen, when I come and see you in France, tell them to cook the meat.
We will. We'll send it back, to the kitchen. Make sure it's well done.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Automate Works podcast. For more episodes, visit automateworks.com.